On 21st, India will be getting its first tribal president and the second woman president. Can politicians and political parties afford to be on the wrong side of the history? Joining me on the show, Radhika Ramaseshan, columnist, Varun Singh, political analyst, Sanjay Kumar, professor of CSDS, and we also have Professor Kapil Kumar, historian of IGNOU. I'm going to begin with a woman on the panel. India will be getting its second woman president, Radhika Ramaseshan. Whatever said and done, would you say that knowing fully well that Yashwant Sinha is up against someone who has the numbers clearly stacked up for her, should political parties who are relatively not signaling which side they are on make the right pick and back Draupadi Murmu?
Well, truly, the Draupadi Murmu's candidacy has thrown the opposition into a complete mess. You know, it has completely befuddled the opposition, and you have already seen the JMM coming out of it, of the UPA. Now, the JMM really had no choice. I mean, yes. Draupadi Murmu is an Adivasi, a woman to boot, and of course, I mean, she comes from a very, she comes from a not so well-off background.
Yes.
And here she is, I mean, politically empowered and ready to take the post of the president if all goes well. I'm not going to second guess anything.
Yes.
But so JMM has come out. Mamta Banerjee, who initiated the entire exercise to put up an opposition candidate, is herself in a bit of a tizzy. I mean, she went to the extent of saying that had we known the NDA was putting up an Adivasi as its candidate, then we might have reconsidered our own strategy. Yashwant Sinha, to start with, never really stood a chance against Draupadi Murmu. I'm not only talking about numbers. Numbers are stacked in favor of the NDA, but what does he represent? I mean,
yes.
for the life of me, I couldn't think of what
Radhika, he if anything represents the fact that he is a former BJP leader. How do we forget that? So for all those who are talking about the evil philosophy of the BJP, they cannot have a selective interpretation of the fact that Yashwant Sinha has been a BJP leader all his life, for most part of his life. Varun Singh, we are seeing emergence of new political axis, as has been the case of most presidential elections. There have been breaking of ranks. Look at the TDP. Look at the case of Uddhav Thackeray. Of course, his MLAs and MPs forced him to take that call. But again, JMM, they had no option but to back Draupadi Murmu. This is clearly, I would not even say catch-22 situation for them. They understand fully well that this is a case of a tribal president of India, and these are the parties who are in many ways reach out to the tribals. Maharashtra also has a significant tribal population.
Absolutely. You know, it makes me feel very happy because a woman going and climbing up the ladder and assuming that post, and especially a woman like Draupadi Murmu, whose history is so difficult. Yes. She comes from and I wouldn't mind saying this word, but she comes from a very poor background. She studied, completed her graduation in spite of, you know, coming from a community where you haven't seen so much of education. And she went on to become a clerk, then a teacher, then a minister in Orissa. And let me remind you a small thing. There was an instance where her own party government, when she was the governor in Jharkhand, she stalled two of their bills that she felt were anti-Adivasis. And even made the central government realize it, and then they had to be backed out. So if anyone who says that she comes from a background who wouldn't even understand how the parliament or how the constitution or any other administrative post functions would be completely wrong. And, you know, all those people who tried to pull her down, they were not trying to pull her down because she was an Adivasi. They were trying to pull her down just because she is a woman. And whenever I see these men who actually come from a background who do not want women to climb up, they come up with such statements about evil philosophy or whatever. It could be, as you rightly pointed out, you know, the same philosophies of Yashwant Sinha. he himself was a minister, not just a leader. He represented the entire government. And that philosophy, if it is not on Yashwant Sinha, how can it be on a woman who comes from a community which has never been represented?
Varun, you're interestingly highlighting the woman aspect of this candidature. I'm going to talk about the woman aspect with Radhika in just a bit. But before that, Professor Kapil Kumar, this is history in making, and we are witnessing history unfold. What will you tell all those political parties who are continuing to back Yashwant Sinha? They say that they have to put up a symbolic fight, even if it is tokenism. Just look at the way BJP, when they were in opposition, they did not back the candidature of Mr. Narayanan. They did not back a similar candidate in the past.
You see, I have lost your voice, but I hope you are hearing me.
Yes, Professor Kumar, go ahead.
You see, the thing is this, you look at it, who's leading it, Congress. Now, Congress has a history, right from the freedom struggle days, of not giving any tribal leader any position in its organizational hierarchy. They oppose the tribal movements, whether you pick up Birsa Munda, whether you pick up Santhan uprisings, whether you pick up Sitaram Raju during the freedom struggle. And once these leaders gave their lives fighting the British, the Congress will go and make them their heroes. That's what they tried to do all their life. Then look at the second part after 47. All these regions in the country, what was their developmental stage? I'll quote here Professor S.C. Dubey. I think it was the fourth plan when he was invited to make the fourth plan for the tribals. And he asked them to give them where the money is spent, under which heads. So the heads were given. And then he was asked, tell me, with these heads, how the money is spent. And will you believe that 80% of the money going for tribal welfare was going to build the houses and buy jeeps for the government officials. And Professor Dubey at that time refused that I can't sign this kind of a plan paper. And he was told, nahi, deri ho gayi hai, ye kar dijiye, wo kar dijiye, that kind of a thing. Now, if you look at the contribution of tribals, whether it is 1857, Tatya Tope in Panchmahal with the Bhils, whether it's the uprisings in Jharkhand, Bihar, you come to 43, 44, the role which played by Cookies, the Nagas in Azad Hind Fauj. What we did? We tried to keep tribals as saying they should be brought into the mainstream.
Yes, without mainstreaming them.
Every Indian citizen and every Indian citizen and every Indian region is mainstream. Why do you differentiate this? This is periphery and this is mainstream. I'll give you one more example. In 1946 December, the session of Congress was held in Meerut.
Okay.
And the Nagaland representative there said that in Nagaland, certain American missionaries are preaching that Nagas should not join the Indian Union. The Congress must do something. And you know what was the answer of Nehru? It's on record. Freedom struggle of India will not start from Nagaland. You look at the Chakmas, which went to Bangladesh. The entire region of Chakmas wanted to join India. Congress conceded it.